Who's there, man?
It's Dave.
Dave who?
Dave, the conquistador.
Dave's not here, man.
No, this is Dave.
He wasn't here last week.
Well, I'm here this week, baby. It's time for your favorite politically incorrect sports commentary, Sports Frenzy 2.0. I'm the conquistador, Dave Height.
And I'm the maestro, Kevin Crane.
It is February 21st, 2024. This will drop Thursday the 22nd.
Good to have the conquistador back, of course.
Glad to be back.
And I am in a mood tonight. I am in a mood. So while Dave is going to play catch up and he's probably going to take over most of the opinions this week.
I got a lot of them, baby.
Because he didn't talk about the Super Bowl. He didn't get to talk about a lot of the stuff that happened last week. I'm just warning you, though. I'm stressed out. I am freaking out, baby. So once you get to a hot button topic,
look out.
I might go Oppenheimer nuclear on you.
That would be foreshadowing for the weekend edition, kids.
Yes, where we are going to both review Oppenheimer. But now it's time to change things up a little bit. The football season is over. So now we have to move on to NASCAR and baseball.
Yep, NASCAR coming up first because we just had the Great American Race on Monday, because it was a Sunday rainout, the Daytona 500.
Yep, and they said, what, this was the third rainout in the past 13, 14 years where they hadn't had but maybe one rain out in the previous entire history of the 500.
Yeah, nutsy cuckoo.
Yeah. I don't know how you feel about the ending of the race. It didn't bother me. The idiocy of the racing bothered me.
Yeah, I had some issues down the stretch. William Byron causing the big accident.
Thank you! Nobody but me!
No, it was obvious. He ran into the back end of Keselowski, spun him around, and caused the big melee.
I was the only one!
On to victory.
Yeah, I was the only one who said he caused that wreck.
He did!
Nobody in the Fox booth would take that leap.
No, they wouldn't, and that pissed me off.
Byron was the cause of that wreck.
Abso-friggin-lutely.
Just like Ross Chastain was too aggressive at the end.
Right.
He was.
And
it cost him. He could have had a second, third place finish, but he decided, and who's going to fault him for going for the win?
For it. One lap, you have to try it. So,
but yes, Byron caused that big wreck
for no
took
reason
out most
at that
of the Fords. Took out Logano, Blaney, took them all out, and it was on Byron.
Yep.
Thank you. See, this is why I have the voice of sanity sitting to my right each and every week, because he's the only one that understands, along with me,
what actually frickin' happened. Rose-colored glasses in the booth, kids. And I'm sorry, Kevin Harvick is a disappointment in the booth to this point.
Oh, my God. Oh, we're on fire already. We're on fire already.
Boring.
You and I are in lockstep.
Boyer is trying to be engaging, and Harvick's just like Mr. Milquetoast.
Friend of mine who follows NASCAR says, this is not the chemistry that you got with Stewart and Boyer when they get their occasional times together in the booth.
Or anybody in Boyer. There's nothing from former teammates.
Yeah.
And we've heard Harvick in the booth before doing Xfinity races, truck races. He's been good. He's just, very disappointing.
I'm hoping he turns into the Troy Aikman of NASCAR.
Yeah, but
it took Aikman a while
to get going. He's done enough where he's been good.
I know. And I'm disappointed too. I am really disappointed.
I was looking forward to this.
Yeah.
And he's bringing...
Because Boyer's great.
He's bringing Boyer down.
Yes, Boyer is so good that you need that third foil in the booth with them.
Because Mike Joy is perfect to lead it through.
Right. Almost want Kurt Busch in there. Kurt Busch
Kurt was
a
better.
a pretty good foil to Boyer. I know Stewart doesn't want to do this full time.
No, he can't.
Right. He's got the drag racing. He's running Stewart Haas.
Yeah.
But, yeah, Kurt Busch type would be better right now. Yeah. So hopefully Harvick grows into this role.
Yeah, it's from what we've heard from him before, this is definitely 3 steps back for him.
Yeah, completely agree. Pole was Joey Logano. Duels were won by Tyler Reddick and Christopher Bell. But again, in the end, does it really mean anything but a hill of beans outside of the bonus points you got in the duels?
Not really.
So
there we go. Bunch of us behind the 8 ball because of Mr. Byron.
Yeah, not a good showing for our first contest of our 2024-25 Frenzy Cup season. But I'm not going to say this is the only time.
No,
because
there's going to be more.
Usually starts off like this with Daytona. And the sad thing is we all had really good cars. If it wasn't for the big one.
Yep.
If it wasn't for the wreck.
And that's usually how it is.
Yep. So that leads us to race number 2.
Yep. Going to Atlanta.
Yep, coming up this Sunday. Of course, not a big travel day for them to go from Daytona to Atlanta. So we're not going to have to listen to them going, wah.
And, oh yeah, more pack racing. Because they had to F up Atlanta.
Yep. So the Am Better Health 400 coming to you from Atlanta. We have 7 of our 8 panelists with their picks in. You are on an island, but not a bad island.
Nope. You know, I almost went with you and Sam and Bill.
Yeah, I was kind of picking on them because they got their picks in before me. And I was going back and forth between what they picked and what Doug picked. Now, Doug, interestingly, one of our panel members, backed out on his pick. And you can do that.
You can.
Before the deadline.
Before the deadline, you can back out and switch it up.
Because you never know what's going to happen. He initially took William Byron, but as hard as it is to go back to back, I think he's finally learning about NASCAR. Despite his love of pickleball and horse racing. You know, he lacrosse and taekwondo and all his bizarre, weird contests he wants to put in the Penafrenzy. He realizes
learned a lesson.
Yes, I don't want to go with somebody trying to go back to back, so he goes with the teammate of William Byron, which I think is a very good pick, by the way.
Yep, a solid. These are all solid picks.
Yeah, so Doug takes Chase Elliott.
Yep. Aaron is going with the Melon Man, Ross Chastain. Nick taking Kyle Larson.
That's the one pick I don't think I'd go with.
Not there.
No, not there. The other ones I agree with.
Down the line. I am going with Joey Logano.
And I think
had
a solid
very
pick.
Strong car at Daytona, got caught up. Now,
yes,
if they can have as strong a car, they're looking pretty good out of the box. And he runs typically well.
That was my third pick.
So, because I flirted with the going back to back with Byron, and I thought about taking your pick.
Yep. Byron was my first pick, but I thought the same way Doug did. I'm not going back to back. It's too hard in NASCAR to go back to back.
Yep.
You've got to get on an unprecedented run.
It's been so long since anybody's been able to do that.
Yep. So I backed off on Byron, and then I decided to go with the AARP crowd. The Golden Girls, as we like to call them. That would be our oldest 2 members of our panel. That would be Sam and Bill. They are going with Ryan Blaney, as am I. I think after having a bad showing the whole weekend between getting wrecked out in the duels, I was a little worried about the wrist.
Yeah.
When you saw the in-car camera.
When he got caught up in the big one where wheel snapped him.
He says he's fine. Defending champion. This is a good track for him. I need points, even though with the new rules that we've instituted for our contest, it's not as dire.
Right, but it helps.
I think it's lulling us into a false sense of security.
That's what it's going to do.
You still need points. You still need to get up there in the standings to get those bonus points. Jen got the bonus point last week for winning second stage with Ryan Blaney.
Yep.
So she gets huge. One bonus point, not only for that race this week, but the first week of the playoffs.
Yes.
So, yes.
Very big.
Sam and Bill and I are taking Ryan Blaney. Jen's pick is
forthcoming.
TBD. She's busy buying us concert tickets. Leave her alone.
That's right.
You leave her alone. So we talked about baseball. Let's move on to baseball. And then we'll leave you plenty of time later on to talk about your take on the Super Bowl, which you did not get to pass along this past week. So let's talk a little bit about baseball. Of course, pitchers and catchers have reported everybody is now basically flooding the Southwest and Florida. Yep. All the teams getting ready to start playing this weekend.
They are. The Cactus League and the Grapefruit Leagues getting ready to fire it up.
Despite the fact I fucking hate the Dodgers, I'm getting excited. You get that. That's no other feeling like when baseball is gearing up and getting ready to go. It goes back to the DNA that was ingrained in me when I was a child, just like you.
Exactly.
Watching Channel 44.
We're born again. There's new grass on the field.
Watching Channel 44 for the White Sox. Watching
Channel
WGN
9.
Channel 9 for the Cubs. So.
Yeah, I'm still not looking forward to this season.
Well, Liam Hendriks signed.
With the Red Sox. Good for him.
Got a 2-year deal, I believe, guarantees him $10 million minimum. Yeah. So really good deal for him.
Yeah, some incentives in there. Hey, more power to him.
And he probably won't even pitch until at least the second half of this upcoming season.
Yeah.
So, yep, good deal for him. Of course, that is a feel-good story. So, of course, it has to go away from Chicago.
Yeah, because there's no feel-good in Chicago.
No, not right now.
Oh.
The Cubs signed a bunch of cast-offs and miscreants to minor league deals or non-roster invitees. David Peralta, Dom Smith, and oh my God, Carl Edwards Jr. is coming back. Oh my God.
And there you go.
Oh, Jesus Christ on a stick. Are you kidding me? Carl Edwards?
Yeah.
I hated him.
He was bad.
Oh, he's back again.
There you go.
He's like a venereal disease.
At least your owner had enough sense to say no to meeting with Scott Boras and said, nah, Jed's my baseball guy. He's in charge of negotiations. Not getting into that crap that Boras tries to play.
Yep, and all 4 of his big name free agents.
5. He's got 5.
Okay, he's got Snell. He's got Bellinger. He's got Jordan Montgomery.
Yep.
And he's got Matt Chapman.
There was somebody
I don't think
else.
JD Martinez is his.
Yeah, Martinez.
I did not think he was a Boras.
He was listed as one of the 5.
Oh, that sucks then. I did not think he was a Boras guy. Ugh. So, I don't see how this helps his people. I don't. Again, I went on a rant on this last week about Boras being the devil. But I don't see how he's helping his clients because half of these guys, I know 5, if Martinez is actually one, you can't split it in half, but he's 3 out of the 5 are going to end up taking short-term deals and having to do a prove-it deal.
Again.
All 5 of these guys are not getting long-term lucrative deals.
No, their age is going to prevent that at this point.
Stupid. I just hate Scott Boras. And I understand his purpose and what he is supposed to do in his job. And he does it fairly well.
But he gets too damn greedy.
Well, and the thing is, he doesn't care about the sport. He doesn't care about the future of the sport. He should run for fucking office because he sounds like a goddamn politician. He doesn't care about his constituency or the future of the people he's trying to help.
No, he does not. And it's absolutely pathetic. Trying to destroy the game is what he likes to do.
Speaking of destroying the game, we finally got confirmation. We alluded to it a few weeks ago. Rob Manfred will be retiring in January of 2029.
Too damn long.
So he's going to have plenty of time to do
more
than
damage.
enough damage.
And hey, how about those new jerseys that he's touting that everybody's going to love? That no player seems to like at this point.
Do not ever follow the NBA as a model.
No, never.
Despite everything you hear from the bullshit ESPN-led sports media, do not believe anything about how the NBA is doing so ridiculously well, because they're not.
No.
And we'll get to them later. Trust me, we'll get to them later. Shocking, though, that the Nationals have been pulled off the market. The Nationals are no longer for sale. Washington fans probably going, oh, shit.
Seriously?
Oh, shit. You know, ever since they won their World Series, they have basically imploded, gotten rid of all the high-priced players. Basically, they have become the Oakland A's East. And now, with the fact that the ownership is not changing, fans are probably going, great.
Wonderful.
Great.
Hey, I can relate to that. Oh.
Honestly, let me ask you something. Can you name one player on the Washington Nationals? Can you name one player? Right now. Washington Nationals, one player.
No, I haven't even bothered to check on them.
I can't either.
They're irrelevant to me.
I can't. They are along with the A's, they're probably one of the 2 or 3 teams where I couldn't tell you a single player on the roster. That's how sad that is. Even the Pirates, I know Andrew McCutchen is still hanging around there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But hey, the White Sox, they signed somebody else to a minor league deal. Another former Royal, Moustakas.
Oh, and by the way, another former Royal, another former Cub, Eric Hosmer, retired.
Yep. So well, I'm surprised that Getz didn't try and sign him for a final year. Good Lord.
Now let's go with another former Royal, since that seems to be our theme right now. This one a little bit younger, a little bit better. Phillies signed Whit Merrifield, who's actually not bad.
Who's a pretty good player.
He got started really, really late.
He did.
I believe he didn't even get his first full major league season until he was 27.
Yeah.
So he signs a 1-year, $8 million deal, super utility guy with the Phillies. So I imagine next week, I'm thinking
the dominoes should have fallen.
Something's going to happen in the next 7 days. Everybody's playing, everybody's warming up, everybody's playing spring training games. The Boris guys have got to start making decisions. They have got to start going to him and say, hey, dipshit, how about you stop making your little clever goddamn limericks in these fucking press conferences and get me a job? Idiot. He is such an idiot. And again, I understand his purpose. And it's just like hating a lawyer.
But there's a point where you're a detriment to your clients.
Yes, exactly. And I think he is 100% a detriment right now. So. And it almost seems like he values some clients over others.
Oh, yeah.
He'll close one team maybe 2, most likely with Bellinger and Snell, will cave and they'll get decent deals. But then they'll screw over Chapman's only going to get a 1-year deal. I guarantee that.
If
Montgomery,
that,
maybe a 2-year deal. But he is going to tout how great of a job he did for the ones who
the one or
actually end up
two,
getting.
and he's hosed the others.
Yes. Well, I really wanted to do a couple badasses this week, but I am unbelievably and completely confused about one of them, which we'll get to in a minute. But for now, I have one confirmed Clint Eastwood badass of the week. And we're going to be talking a lot about women's sports throughout this episode. But I'm not going where you think I'm going. I'm going with Lauren Taylor. Lauren Taylor plays for Division II Francis Marion. But she happened to set the record here this past week for women. Again, still impressive beyond belief. In a game last week, Lauren Taylor pulled down 44 rebounds.
Holy crap!
Yep.
Wow.
44 rebounds, a women's record for one game.
Wow.
Once again, Lauren Taylor for D2, Francis Marion, my confirmed legitimate badass of the week.
Very cool.
Yep. And like I said, we got a lot more to talk about when it comes to women's hoops a little bit later in this episode.
Yep. Moving on. I do have a badass, kind of a cool little story. Retired New York Giant Carl Banks stepping in at the airport as Jets running back Brees Hall is at the luggage rack, trying to get his bags to go home after coming back from a trip. And a fan asked for his autograph. He said, please, not right now. Adult fan gets super aggressive, starts going off on Hall. And Hall's just like, come on, I need to, not right now, not the time and place, which is his right. And the fan is getting really aggressive, and Mr. Banks steps in between them and says, whoa, buddy, not right now. There's a time and place. This is not the way to act. So before everything escalated to something horrible, kudos to Banks for stepping in.
Yep. Yeah, I read that story. Carl Banks, great job. Because we should not be pestering these people.
No.
These celebrities for their autographs, a picture, a selfie, whenever we feel like we need it.
Yeah.
They're human beings. They have their own lives. Let them be. If it seems like they're okay with it, if you see somebody else approach them, okay, maybe.
Yeah. Now, a few years ago, we were on vacation. My wife and I went up to Niagara Falls. And so we did one of the bus trips. And so we're taking photos. One of the people on our bus trip, Carlos Beltran, was there with his wife, his kids, and his mother-in-law. And a few people knew who he was. Nobody bothered him. We chatted with him about different things at different stops, just like a regular guy. We started to take a selfie of us with the falls in the background. His wife offered to take our picture for us, and then we took theirs. So we didn't try and do the thing with them. We just kept it really cool.
See, that's the way to proceed.
Yeah, and he was really nice.
So,
yeah, and I think he appreciated that nobody bothered him or made a big deal of who he was.
Yep.
So time and place, people. There with the family on vacation, trying to enjoy it. Complete respect.
Yep. And we'll probably talk more about this on the weekend edition about the whole celebrity thing. But yeah, it gets to a point where we've got to stop worshiping athletes and movie stars.
Absolutely.
What the hell good does it? Oh, look, just for your example, I took a picture with Carlos Beltran. What does that really get you in life?
Nothing. I didn't need it. I wasn't a huge Royals fan when he played for them. I didn't like the Yankees and the
Right.
Royals or the Astros.
Yeah.
Who cares?
He's playing for all your rivals in the
Yeah.
American League. So
Yeah.
why
So
would
he's going to be a first ballot, or he's going to be a Hall of Famer when it comes time.
Right.
But nope. We were cool taking a picture of him and his wife. His wife took our picture. There you
It
go.
reminds me, unfortunately, of the commercial, one of the few good commercials out there with Dr. Rick and the one guy with LL Cool J.
Yeah.
And he says, "Pretend there's a bubble." No,
Oh,
no. Here, I've got a video of my nephew.
no.
That is not the way we should behave
No.
in a civilized, respectful society. All right, kids. The new format for Sports Frenzy rolls on, the nonstop format, and we will move on to basketball. So again, it's time for Dave and I to save the sports world. When we talk about basketball, we talk about the NBA All-Star Game, the travesty that it is. But it's usually this time in each and every politically incorrect episode where we tell you where you can find us.
Spotify, Google, Radio Public, Pocket Cast, Apple, Overcast, Castbox, Amazon, Audible, and iHeart Sports Frenzy, baby.
Otherwise known as iHeartRadio. And Radio Public, unfortunately, will be going away at the end of March.
So, Radio Public folks, start swapping over to one of the other platforms.
Yep. And of course, check out the Facebook page where now every week we will have our NASCAR picks posted at the end of March, of course. Baseball picks each and every week as well.
Approaching way too damn fast.
Yep, life moves pretty fast. Who said that? I believe that was one Ferris Bueller.
Bueller.
And of course, when we get to the weekend edition, we're not going to have a full review yet of True Detective Night Country, but there is a little bit of a Ferris Bueller reference in there as well.
There is. The first episode.
So, moving on to the NBA. Like I said, we have got to fix things, Dave. Once again, it's up to us. How do we fix the we know that the All-Star games in all the sports are broken. Whereas 2 decades ago, they were looked upon
something.
They were looked upon as next to the playoffs, the most important time of the season.
Yeah. Every player wanted to prove they were the best of their sport. They let it all hang out.
And now every single sport of the 4 major sports, it's pretty much become a joke.
Yeah, it's just, oh, let's talk to the baseball players in the middle of the game. Oh, we'll chat with somebody as a ball's hit right at them. We'll talk to the pitchers as they're trying to throw a pitch. It's a freaking joke. I hate it.
Now, I will say this. Despite the fact they took away what I thought was a brilliant move with Major League Baseball, where the All-Star game determined home field advantage for the World Series, it's still now, it has turned into officially still the best of the All-Star games. It's still a game. There is no skills competition. You can say the home run derby, but there is still a game where the players actually play, and it's not an offensive explosion.
Right. There's still defense and everything else. The pitchers are still trying to get guys out. They're just not lofting batting practice fastballs for the guys to tee off
on. Go. Yes. Good way to put it.
Yeah, they're not traveling like they do in basketball now. Or everybody's just standing around watching people take half-court shots or just watching them do goofy-ass dunks. And
So why are we getting on this soapbox? Because the latest incarnation of the NBA All-Star Game, the East won 211 to 186.
That is pathetic.
It featured 168 attempted three-pointers. No defense whatsoever.
Nope, guys are just throwing the ball, letting it bounce until it gets to a point where they can dunk. Nobody's trying to steal. People are walking and traveling. All bets were off. It was a pathetic exhibition.
Yeah, for what it's worth, your MVP was Damian Lillard. Now on the East, which is kind of hard to get used to for all the years he was in the West with the Trailblazers.
Yeah.
Now, of course, with the Bucks. But here's where your politically incorrect boys, the Maestro and the Conquistador, lay down the law. Because now we're hearing all these other pundits, all these other podcast geniuses, all these other wonderful ex-players on ESPN talking about how do we fix the All-Star Game. And you want to know what the first two ideas are?
Money. Throw money at them. They're already making more money than any other fucking professional player out there. They don't need any more money, these pampered little bitches. They take half the damn season off as it is.
And we will revisit this again, this particular option at the end. And we all know what comes at the end, don't we, Dave?
Yes, we do.
But you're right. That is one of the two more popular options.
They don't need any more damn money. The hell with them.
The other option is, of course, the U.S. versus the world.
Oh, whoop-de-doo. It's still going to be a pathetic crap fest.
It becomes racist at that point. Because as we talked about a month or two ago with Gilbert Arenas and his racist podcast, which I brought up last week, and we will discuss again at the end of the show, he talked about outright injuring and hurting other players from other countries because they were taking away, quote unquote, our game.
The guy is an asshole.
He's a racist, and I'm tired of it. I'm not going to hold back on this anymore. If you're a racist, you're a racist. I don't care if you're black, white, Asian,
whatever,
Hispanic. If you're a racist, you're a racist. Gilbert Arenas is a heinous racist. You listen to his podcast and listen to how much of a racist he is. And U.S. versus the world will only fuel that fire. It becomes black versus white for the most part.
And for the most part. There are exceptions on both sides.
Exactly.
But not if you listen to Gilbert.
Other
NBA
NBA
is
news.
Pathetic.
Other NBA news. Let's talk about some more positive stuff. NBA veteran Scott Pollard played for a little bit more than a cup of coffee. He wasn't not just a 1 or 2 year and done guy. He played in the NBA for quite a few years. Scott Pollard needed a heart transplant and did get a heart. And it was kind of scary reading the story about his ailment. Basically contracted some kind of a virus that made his heart beat 10,000 times more a day than normal.
Yikes.
So, good for Scott Pollard. Finalist for the Basketball Hall of Fame. I don't know how impressive of a class this is. You can judge. The big names: Vince Carter.
Okay.
Chauncey Billups.
Okay.
Michael Cooper.
Really?
Walter Davis. and Doug Collins. Those are the big 5 names that I pulled from this class. I'm not really overwhelmed by any of them. If you take Doug Collins for everything, which is what they're doing,
Yeah, his playing career, his coaching career,
broadcasting career,
all of it together, yeah, okay.
Michael Cooper.
Eh,
I kind of look at
he's-
Michael now. Take a second and think about this. We are Bears fans, and we're going to talk here in a little bit about Steve McMichael. We're going to talk about that 85 Bears team. We basically want everybody on that team in the Hall of Fame because of how great it was.
Not everybody should be there, but yeah, I know what you mean.
That Lakers team.
That Lakers team was pretty good.
Same with the Celtics at the same time.
Yeah, the 80s Lakers and Celtics. Those were all-star teams in and of themselves.
Right. So I kind of look at Michael Cooper. I'm looking at him, as you mentioned earlier, rose-colored glasses.
Yeah. That's why I was not poo-pooing right away, just kind of borderline, but
Well,
I can see where he would.
I'm going to say something blasphemous here. Because again, I told you kids, I was in a mood tonight. And it's going to get worse and worse going into the weekend edition. Trust me. I'm not holding back. Vince Carter, even though he is the first name that most people are listing for this Hall of Fame class, I don't think he deserves to be in. What the hell did Vince Carter ever do in terms of his teams winning, in terms of his teams getting far into the playoffs?
Yeah, he didn't do squat.
That's why I don't understand because he could dunk.
So what? Was he a team leader?
The disconnect between the smart fans like you and I and what the NBA product has been for the last 25 or 30 years, ever since the end of Michael Jordan. I'm just saying, Chauncey Billups, I have more respect for because I know what he did as a leader, as a court general running those teams, the Pistons team in particular. Walter Davis, great player for the Phoenix Suns. I just don't understand what Vince Carter did. What did Vince Carter do other than being flashy?
That's about it.
Speaking of flashy, I got to do this. Because I can't talk about the Magic this week since they really didn't play this week. For the second year in a row, Mac McClung wins the slam dunk contest. And Dave and everybody else goes, who the hell is Mac McClung? He plays in the G League. Guess where he plays? He plays down in Kissimmee for the Osceola Magic. God damn it! They've got a fucking G League team now. And I moved away. I could have been seeing G League basketball
for the
NBA basketball
on the cheap.
Yes. Could have been watching the 2-time slam dunk champion.
That's
just
right.
Down the road.
And that was
at the Silver Spurs Arena. And I know exactly where the hell it is. I could drive down there right now and get us there immediately. I know exactly where that is. I saw Pearl Jam there, for the love of God.
Well, there you go. But what made his winning dunk so special?
He jumped over Shaquille O'Neal.
Jumped over Shaquille O'Neal. That was impressive.
He joins a handful, a very small elite group of players who have ever won the slam dunk competition in back-to-back years.
And he's not a tall guy.
But again,
by
I'm
NBA
just bitter
by
because
basketball standards, he's not a tall man.
no, I'm just bitter because again, we live in a
Area,
community, an area that has more than enough people, same amount of people as Kissimmee, St. Cloud down there in Central Florida, and we can barely get a minor league baseball team. Barely. No concerts. Ugh. Just pisses me off.
yes, it does.
And then finally, before we move on to college hoops, the Nets fire head coach Jacques Vaughn. Again, another tie. Back down to the Orlando Magic. Former head coach for them. And Kevin Ollie, familiar name, former UConn
Yep.
head coach, will take over for the Brooklyn Nets. And that leads us into college basketball and said UConn Huskies on many fronts.
What a freaking roller coaster for the UConn men's team this week. They get a huge blowout win over number 4 Marquette.
Which was the first game. I texted you and I told you the first college basketball game I have watched this year. I saw number 1 versus number 4. I said, I'll check this out. Football's done. I lasted 45 minutes. That's what she said.
But
well, that would have been a good
that would have
run.
been good.
Yeah. But for basically the first 10, 12 minutes, and then it was just like a bloodbath.
Yeah, it was.
Shaka Smart's Marquette team could not hang with UConn. But now, what happens?
What happens? Playing their third game of the week, they run into a Creighton team at number 15 that put an ass whooping on the Huskies.
85-66.
So
now it does not matter once we get to the tournament.
Right.
But one weakness that the UConn Huskies men's team has.
They were gassed.
They are 0-21. 0-21. I did not even, you would have taken me for my house, my car, and everything if you'd asked me to bet on this. They are 0-21 against their last 21 ranked opponents on the road.
Ouch.
That's, of course, not counting tournament play.
Right.
Neutral site stuff. But during regular season play.
Against ranked teams, they're 0-21
in
on
their
the
last
road.
21 on the road.
Wow.
So I guess in some sense this shouldn't have shocked us. But again, as I said, I watched them dismantle Marquette. And then they go on the road, like you said, maybe a little bit fatigued. But wow, Creighton just took it to them.
And I could see them being primed for a letdown game like that, though. Being the third game of the week, coming off the high of destroying number 4.
And they were unanimous.
Yeah.
Number 1 for the first time. So.
And what happens to every team that winds up a unanimous number 1? They usually wind up losing the following game.
Be very interesting to see when the polls come out here in about 5 days. Does Houston jump them and take over number 1? Does Kelvin Sampson's Houston team take over the top spot?
One of the dirtiest coaches as far as running a program.
Well, I told you how I feel about Hurley. I don't like him. I don't like him at all.
There's something wrong with. There's something about him that's just not right.
There's something in the water at UConn with the coaches.
Speaking of,
no, he's just nasty. I know, he's just nasty. And so is the other UConn coach.
Gino Auriemma.
Gino Auriemma, love him or hate him. Most people outside of UConn hate him. But he passed Coach K, Mike Krzyzewski, second all-time, men's, women's, doesn't matter. 1,203 wins as a coach. And he's got his sights set on number 1. Of course, we discussed here recently, Stanford's women's head coach is number 1 right now.
6 games ahead of Gino right now.
So
Coming down to the wire on this season.
now you mentioned to me off mic that you had heard that Gino wanted to talk about retirement.
What was it? When he took over the third spot, he had said in the press conference that he's not sure if he's going to be around to solidify the first.
He will be. He will be.
So his ego will not let him. I don't know if he was planning on retiring at the end of this season or not. But his ego, ego, he's going to stick around long enough. He's going.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Now that I would bet the house and the car on.
His ego will not let him.
That I would bet the house and the car on.
Yeah.
Now, we mentioned one of my again, later on I'll discuss potentially another Clint Eastwood badass of the week. But the one I mentioned earlier for sure was Lauren Taylor setting the rebounds record for women's basketball. But spotlight really this week for women's basketball fell on Iowa's Caitlin Clark as she becomes the all-time NCAA women's scoring leader. Now, this was almost a week ago. This was February the 15th versus Michigan. At that point, 3,569 points.
Phew.
And she has done wonders for the college basketball game for the women.
Yep,
the viewership numbers are skyrocketing when she plays.
Yeah, because she's not playing for one of the perennial favorites, be it UConn, Baylor, Tennessee, South Carolina,
with the racist head coach.
So, there you go.
Yeah, I can't wait. After, again, you were not here last week, and we'll discuss this more at the end of the show. The awful comments that were made last week about Caitlin Clark. And again, this country sucks ass.
Pretty much.
The people who say they are non-racist and love everybody are the worst motherfucking people in the world.
They're the backstabbers who, vile.
Yes. And the worst thing that could happen, in my opinion, after the good that Caitlin Clark has done for women's basketball, is for her to go up in the tournament against Dawn Staley, that racist piece of garbage running the South Carolina program. I'm sorry, she is. I've heard too much crap from her in the past about she's a racist, and I'm tired of holding back on it. I will call a racist, white, black, again.
Yep.
Doesn't matter what creed, color, religion you are, sexual orientation, I will call you out if you are full of hate.
And we've been calling Dawn Staley out for years.
Yep. All right, the NHL. I know the Blackhawks still struggling at the bottom end of the ranks.
Yep.
The standings, 15, 38, and 3, but
Connor Bedard is back. His first game back in a 4-1 loss to the Penguins, he got an assist. So he got on the score sheet. Second game back in a 3-2 win, he had a goal and an assist. And in the most recent loss, 6-3 to the Hurricanes, he had a goal and 2 assists. So first 3 games back, 2 goals, 4 assists. Not bad. Not bad at all.
Now, let me ask you
this. There's just nobody else around him. And the goaltending sucks.
You know, obviously, 50 times more about hockey than I do. Is there a rule in place with the NHL that would prohibit the Blackhawks from winning the lottery and getting the number 1 pick again?
I don't know enough about the draft process.
Well, I'm glad I set you up for that. Thanks a lot. And I smack you upside the
they've
head
made so
like
many-
Mo did to Carly.
They've made so many changes over the last few years to all of this crap that it's hard to keep track. And I've really never cared up until this last draft.
Well, we talked about a couple weeks ago with the All-Star game in the NBA and the ridiculous rule where even though the Boston Celtics coach should have been coaching the East team,
Yeah.
but because you can't coach back-to-back years,
Yeah, so it fell to
Doc Rivers got it with one win at that point, taking over for the Bucks.
Yeah. And really, with that pathetic game, do they really need a coach?
Yeah. Were they listening to Doc Rivers?
Does anybody ever listen to Doc Rivers?
Well, they won. They won. They won.
Yeah, but they're the more talented conference, too.
I don't know about that. I think the West is pretty loaded. I would dispute you on that. I know you love your Celtics, and we'll get to them later too. But wrapping up the NHL, we had the Stadium Series this past weekend at MetLife Stadium in New Jersey.
Yep. I didn't watch it.
Well, of course you didn't, because the Blackhawks weren't involved. Seemed like, again, it was a success, although there was a delay for glare.
They have that when you have a day game outside, you're going to have the glare on the ice if it's a sunny day.
Yep, so they had a delay for glare. And then finally...
Put sunglasses on them. Come on.
If you're a Penguins fan, you got to be happy. Penguins retired Jaromir Jagr's number here a few days ago.
Yep, well deserved.
I loved, I got to bring up the quote that made the crowd laugh, where he's talking about his girlfriend, who is very, very much his junior, let's put it that way. I believe she's about 16 years younger than him. Talking about how she doesn't even remember the fact that he played because she wasn't really all that old.
Yammer, half plus 7.
So people were trying to figure out if the crowd was cheering because of his joke or because they put her picture up on the screen.
Probably because they put her picture up on the screen.
Yeah, she's a hot box of rocks, let me tell you that. Definitely a hot box of rocks. All right. Heading towards football, because Dave has got to get caught up with the Super Bowl. He's got to give us his breakdown on all the topics that I probably covered last week, but he's got his own take. We're going to do that on the weekend edition as well, especially with music.
Music got to play some catch up.
But, of course, we have to talk about this streaming package that we brought up a few weeks ago with the Disney, the Fox, Warner Brothers, Discovery conglomerate.
And the fact that the NFL was not notified until after it was announced.
Well, now the lawsuits have started. Because now Fubo is suing Disney, Fox, Warner Brothers, Discovery over this sports streaming package, this platform that's supposed to come out later this year. They filed an antitrust lawsuit. They want billions in damages because they're basically saying, and I got to side with them on this. They're saying, you've been taking licensing money from us
for
all these other platforms for how long, and now you're just turning it right back around and screwing us. And now you're going to say, well, yeah, you're no longer needed.
Bye-bye. We don't need you anymore.
And I'm surprised Comcast
hasn't
jumped
anything
in on this.
Yeah.
Or CBS Paramount.
Or where the hell is the FCC coming down on this?
Again, something we will talk about more on the weekend edition when it comes to companies merging for the detriment of us.
Yeah. This has gone way too damn far.
Yep.
We've been lamenting all the streaming and moving everything off of all the championship games off air for everybody to see. Enough is enough. It's got to end.
Yes. We don't all have millions and millions of dollars to help subsidize the lazy basketball players and the lazy baseball players.
Oh, there's a big dumbass coming up in baseball.
We're tired of it. We're done with it. We're over it. The model was broken, yes, with cable TV. But now, again, as we have always seen, whether it's politics, social media, the media in general, the pendulum swings too far the other way.
And breaks things even worse.
And of course, before we get to football, I can't believe we've been talking about golf this much to start off the year.
I know, we haven't even hit the Masters yet. That's crazy.
The Genesis Invitational was this past weekend, and nobody's talking about the fact that Hideki Matsuyama won. No, everybody's talking about Tiger Woods because it's his tournament. Well, here we go again with the debate. Yes, love him or hate him. I hate him! I hate him so much! Tiger Woods, ooh, Tiger's playing, Tiger's back. Tiger Woods made one of the worst golf shots last Thursday you will ever see in your life. Oh, my back. Oh, my back. It's like Rodney Dangerfield.
My arm. I think it's broken.
Shack. Yeah. Exactly. And then he comes back, makes a ridiculously awesome recovery shot. So Thursday is done. Outside of his little back spasms. Oh, my back spasmed. That's why I hit such a bad shot. He was okay. He was okay. Looked like he could possibly make the cut in his own tournament. And then he starts playing a little bit subpar on Friday. Oh, I think I've got the flu. I'm going to withdraw.
Yeah.
Bullshit! Bullshit! He was not going to make the cut!
How many times have we seen Tiger pull out for various reasons if he's not going to make the cut?
That's what the Asian hooker said, Dave.
Asian hooker.
Yes, multiple levels right there. A multiple level joke just for you. I'm so tired of this. And then I got to hear the overnight radio host talking about, ooh, is it Tiger or is it Tiger? Is it the good Tiger or the bad Tiger?
There is no good Tiger anymore.
I get these overnight callers coming in because, of course, I have insomnia. So I listen to this 3:00 sports radio, and I get the 80-year-old guy calling in.
Back in the day, Ben Hogan used to be the shit.
No, they do the exact opposite. They worship Tiger.
Oh.
They're like, oh my God, why are you picking on Tiger? He's such a wonderful man. He's such a great player. And then the host has to pick their logic apart, saying, you do realize he was probably under the influence of drugs and or alcohol when he wrecked and basically tore up his body, and that has led to where he is right now with his claim of back spasms.
You do know it was the alcohol-induced thing that he had when his ex-wife took a 9-iron to his car.
And then the old guys go, I guess I understand what you're saying, but he's still awesome. He's LeBron James. He is the worst role model for younger players. Oh, but he's a great father. Do you see him out there with his son?
That's why he was cheating on his son's mom, because he's such a great guy.
Yeah, those conversations must be awesome. Well, I really don't know who your mother is, but you're a great golfer, my friend. Let's go have a fresca. I'm sorry. I can't stand Tiger fucking Woods. Just like I can't stand LeBron James. LeBron James is not Michael Jordan. Tiger Woods could have been Jack Nicklaus if he wasn't such a degenerate dirtbag. And that's on him. Just like LeBron James and him leading the charge here, as we talked about earlier, with this let's take games off. Let's not put in our full effort. Let's not grow the game. Bullshit.
You suck. You had, both of them had every opportunity to put themselves in a pantheon of greatness, to escalate their sport to unprecedented levels. But their egos and idiocy have ruined everything, made them despicable, despisable individuals.
And guess what? You're 100% right. Now Tiger Woods will never reach Jack Nicklaus's record of majors won, and LeBron James will never, ever catch the greatest when it comes to titles. So,
Yep.
Just like you said. College football, one big story to discuss before we move on to the pros. The 6+6 format has now been shifted and changed with the unofficial death of the Pac-12. And we are now going with the 5+7 format that has been approved immediately.
Yep. I like it. I think it will work.
And it does not exclude the smaller conferences.
It does not.
The problem is the nil deals, the transfer portal, which they came out and said this week they're not changing. But at least the 5+7 format will allow the highest ranked conference champions. Does not mean it has to be one of the power four now.
The 5 highest ranked conference champions.
Right.
Automatic in.
Right. And they noted in a recent year, if we remember, Cincinnati.
Yep.
Before they moved in to the Big 12, I think they're in now.
Yeah.
Before they moved into the Big 12, they were ahead of the ACC champion. In this model, they get in ahead of the ACC champion.
Yeah, there's been a number of examples that they've gone back over the last 5 or 6 years where the smaller conferences would have fared well here too.
Yep. All right, let's go on to the NFL. And I'm going to let Dave discuss, since he did not get to talk about the Super Bowl last week, anything and everything he wants to get off his chest about the Kansas City Chiefs beating the 49ers in overtime.
Kyle Shanahan needs to be held accountable, more so than the defensive coordinator who was let go. Why the hell do you come out after halftime and pass, and go 3 and out on your first 3 possessions? The Chiefs could not stop your running game. You were keeping them off the field, moving the ball, and putting points on the board. Why is it every damn team changes what they do against the Chiefs? Teams have success with what they're doing, and they outsmart themselves. Why? Keep going until you have to change. You gave them the chance to come back on you. Horrible, horrible coaching by Shanahan in that regard. Absolutely pathetic. And I know it's a Super Bowl. You want to let guys play. But come on. Watching the game-tying drive on the big plays Mahomes had to get them on 3rd and long and move the ball to get it tied. How egregiously Bosa and Young were being held. They were hooked from behind, being pulled backwards to give Mahomes time to scramble to make the big plays. How are you letting that decide the outcome? In overtime, Bosa had his head jammed backwards so far he was looking straight up from illegal hands to the face. You want player safety. That could have seriously injured him in that regard, and it was let go multiple times. Ugh, it's frustrating. You tout safety, you say, oh, the officiating is the greatest. It kind of sucked ass. And that's what Mahomes gets a lot of breaks from his offensive line getting away with holding. They did throughout the playoffs.
Yeah, the sad thing is you get to the point where you get to not only the Super Bowl, but the conference championships, where they start to ease up on calling anything and everything.
But if it makes such a drastic impact on the play, it has got to be called.
Oh, I agree.
And that's what happened time and time again.
And of course, we can go back to my favorite play from 5-6 years ago with the Rams and the Saints.
Oh, the egregious pass interference that wasn't called.
Okay, so let's let us try 1 year.
Yeah,
with being able to review pass interference,
and they didn't do anything about it.
Nope. But then, of course, we can't just have a normal celebration for the Chiefs. Now, when I recorded last week's solo, the news had just broke about the shootings at the Kansas City Victory Parade. At the time, I believe it was one. The woman, the DJ, was dead. At that time, only 9 were declared injured. Now it was up to 22 officially.
Why? Because of idiots. What are you looking at? Why are you looking at me? Boom, boom, boom. Stupid people doing stupid things.
And I'm still confused by all this. Because initially they said 2 teens were charged.
With
but
part of it. Now video found the 2 adults who were actually shooting.
And those 2 adults have been charged with second-degree murder. I just don't understand the mentality. You
diss me. Will you look at? Just be men. Don't be assholes.
You and I probably watch way too much of On Patrol Live, where we see this crap every weekend live across the country.
There's no point to it. It solves nothing.
I still tell you, it's a lack of intelligence because we have.
It's a lack of intelligence and horrible upbringing.
Everybody in this country is dumber than they were 20 years ago. Everybody in this country, 20, 30 years ago. Because the mindless pap that we're fed through social media and through the television and reality TV. Like you said, nobody can just stand up and be a mature adult, male, female, whatever.
You gotta let things go. Not everything is solved by violence.
Then, of course, we have to have the PR stunts. Taylor Swift gives $100,000 to, I believe, that directly to the fatality, the family of the woman, the DJ who died. Now, Travis Kelce, a little bit more iffy. Now, he ended up giving $100,000 to other victims of the shooting, who did not, thankfully, die. But there were reports of him an hour or 2 after
still partying it up,
taking selfies with the police, and
not a great look.
No. And then, of course, that comes on the heels, something again you didn't get to talk about last week, with the images of him bumping Andy Reid on the sidelines and yelling and screaming at him. So I don't think This is a great look here over the last couple months for Travis Kelce, despite the fact he is dating America's darling.
Yeah.
So let's move on to other NFL news. Bears news. It's been a roller coaster here over the last week with Steve McMichael.
Yep.
Mongo.
Oh, Mongo. Oh, God.
In and out of the hospital. Good news, bad news, good news, bad news. Luckily, it looks like right now we're on the upswing.
Yeah.
Better news. So we got to get him through to the Hall of Fame
He
ceremony.
is fighting his ass off to get to Canton. He
Yep.
wants to be there so badly. And I hope for his sake he's able to make it, but not at such a cost to him and his family.
Yeah. And this is going to be a Bears Hall of Fame. And when was the last time we could say that? With him, Devin Hester, and even Julius Peppers.
Yeah.
I'm sure the Bears will end up playing in the Hall of Fame game.
Probably.
Because that's
through
usually
this.
how they schedule it.
Yeah. Somebody who's got the most going in.
Yep. So you guys know out there, if you've listened to this podcast since the beginning, you know this is so important to Bears fans. Diehard Bears fans like Dave and I, that Steve Mongo McMichael gets there, gets to Canton, and can give a speech. Because of all the times these Hall of Fames, whether it's football, baseball, any of the Hall of Fames, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, wait until somebody's already on their death's doorstep or already gone.
Yeah, and unfortunately, Mongo is near the end.
Yep. But that would be the way to go. Know that you get that final accolade, that final, the icing on the cake.
Yep. He got the call from Richard Dent. Dent showed up and gave him the news.
And again,
that's awesome.
As again, I talked about earlier, we're biased. We know that. Dave and I are always going to side with anybody and everybody on that 85 Bears team. But that team was tight. It was a family. It was so magnificent and such one of the most magical moments in sports history. And you can say we're biased, but I still think that team was the greatest team in football history. And I will stand by that until I'm proven otherwise.
Yep, top to bottom, that was one hell of a unit.
Now, the current Bears, of course, we know this is probably, and I'm not overstating this, I don't think I am,
the most important draft in the history of the franchise.
Yeah, everybody with when it comes to politics and, Fox News and CNN always talk about every 4 years, the most important election of our lifetime. Yeah, whatever. Shut up. Shut up, you asswipes. But I will say, this is the most important offseason of the Bears' history. Because this is either going to set the franchise foundation in a positive way for the next decade, or it is going to make us a laughingstock again. And we will end up going down right now, along with the Carolina Panthers, as the two worst franchises in football. So these idiots better know what they're going to do. They better vet Caleb Williams, because, of course, now Justin Fields has wiped all of his social media.
He was on the St. Brown Brothers podcast saying he's going on vacation. He wants a break from football. He eliminated all football.
NFL too.
NFL, Bears, all football.
And I don't hate him for that. Don't take it the wrong way, but he also said, I just want this to be over.
Let me know. Am I going to be traded? Am I going to be here? And he's got every right to just want to know what's going on.
And I agree with that. But he's got to understand This is the business.
Yep, and he does.
And if the Bears have to wait until draft night, the
To
first
pull
night,
the trigger.
he's going to have to wait until then.
Yep.
He will find a landing spot.
And he will excel.
He's going to have one more shot. Every other quarterback, highly drafted quarterback, always gets a second shot. Unless you're Jamarcus Russell.
And you who never showed anything.
Well, he never acted like he cared.
No, that either.
Should have been an NBA player. Speaking of a guy who never really kind of acted like he cared, Jimmy Garoppolo.
Oh, God, Jimmy G.
Pretty boy. Good for him. He can bang any porn star in the world.
And now we know why
most
when
of
he's
us
taking the HGH.
But most of us guys would be more than happy to be in his shoes. Now, in terms of a GM, in terms of wanting him as my quarterback, probably not.
No.
But yes, Jimmy G gets a 2-game suspension for PED violations.
Ugh.
And here's the really awful thing about it. The Raiders can now technically probably void the $11.25 million guaranteed salary he had coming this year.
They can void it, and it will not be a cap hit for him at all.
No. For once, the Raiders avoid a dead cap hit.
And you got to let him go. You've got to cut bait. This is an opportunity to be free and clear.
And of course, they've talked about Justin Fields potentially being a fit for that.
Yeah, but not with Getsy going there.
Well, you and I say that because you and I know that those two in Chicago really didn't seem to mesh. But everybody else outside of this area
seems to think
he might go with Getsy. He might go.
Why would he want to when he called him out after the first 2 weeks of the season?
Getsy was the one that was hindering him, that was keeping him from progressing.
Yeah, Getsy didn't know what to do with him.
Yeah, I mean,
you look at the game plans all season, they were pathetic.
Now, what do you think the Bears could get for him? Because now I'm hearing number 1 is off the... You're not getting a number 1
You're not
pick.
getting a number 1.
You're probably going to get a number 2.
You probably get a 2 this year, possibly a 2 or 3 next year.
I'd take it.
So you could you'd probably get a 2 and a 3 this year, and maybe a 2 next year.
The worst part of this whole fucking situation is Caleb Williams.
I know.
Because if there was no doubt that he would play for the Bears and he would put in 100% and not be worried about his brand and how much money he's going to make in terms of endorsements and what he could do.
Does he care about playing football or does he care about making money? Exactly. That's what it comes down to.
And that's what scares the hell out of me. And I don't want Drake May.
Oh, hell no.
Again, if there's any doubt, and again, do I trust this front office? Absolutely not. They have never shown me they can make any kind of a solid, rational judgment when it comes to player personnel. If there's any doubt that Caleb Williams does not want to play in Chicago and does not want to play for the Bears, you trade out of that pick. I tell you, you go back, you get lineman, you get Alt if you can from Notre Dame, you get Marvin Williams, Marvin Williams, Mercedes Marv, Maserati Marv,
Marvin Harrison,
whatever, Gus Johnson,
Maserati Marv.
You get him, you get Alt, and then you drop back and get Penix.
There you go.
I am not drafting a guy if I have any doubt that he does not want to play for me. It sucks. I hate it. I hated Elway when he did it. I hated Manning when he did it. But you have got to look out for the long-term stability and future of the organization. And you cannot pay Justin Fields $40 million a year.
No, he hasn't shown enough to warrant that kind of money.
All right. I mentioned I had another, possibly, maybe, Clint Eastwood badass, and I have done my research, and I just can't pull it off. I can't pull it off because I wanted to give accolades and credits to the guys who supposedly tackled and held at bay the shooters in the Kansas City victory parade, but I've heard multiple names, multiple people taking credit for it. So
You can't call them out, but we can say badasses to the people who held them for arrest.
yes, the two names I've got are Paul Contreras and Trey Filter, but I don't know for sure who they tackled, who they held up,
Right.
what role they had. Again, our media, so wonderful in their ambiguity.
Gotta be first if we're accurate or not.
Yep. Now, I will give one other Clint Eastwood badass of the week as we wrap up the NFL, because he does not get the attention and the credit he deserves. 10-time Pro Bowler on special teams. Played his entire career for the New England Patriots, which means he's got a shit ton of rings.
Yep, he's got a lot of hardware, kids.
We do not give this man enough credit for what he did for the Patriots. He just announced his retirement this past week. Matthew Slater from the New England Patriots. Again, 10-time special teams Pro Bowler. Another one of my badasses of the week.
Well earned.
Because, of course, we love Devin Hester, and he did all his damage for the most part.
As a return man.
Yep. All right, moments of silence.
We've got Robert Reed, former guard forward for the Houston Rockets, passed away at 68. Thoughts and prayers to his family and friends.
And then, of course, Hall of Fame basketball coach, college basketball coach, Lefty Driesell. Most notably with, Maryland, right?
Yeah.
So, thankfully, that's it. Not a lot in terms of legends of the game passing.
Nope, but it is time to pivot as we play. Do we have enough to play?
Yes.
It's...
Yes. I try. I tell you, I try so hard because I love this part of the podcast more than any other, where I throw this stuff out to Dave and I let him go. And then I just either agree or disagree.
Yep, it is time for the Red Foreman Dumbass or Not. So, who do we have on tap first?
Well, I'm glad you asked, Dave. As each and every week here, you love to play this game that we call Red Foreman's Dumbass or Not. Of course, I am your host, the maestro Kevin Crane, along with my contestant, the conquistador Dave Height. We are starting something new. A rare occurrence here at the end of the show with the Red Foreman Dumbasses of the Week. I would like to call this the Double Down Dumbass of the Week.
Wow. So not only did this individual do something stupid once,
No.
they did it twice and doubled down on what they are?
Close. I like your thinking, but I have got the Double Down Dumbass because I have got two baseball players from the exact same team individually making idiotic, stupid comments that kind of twist and turn around each other and prove that neither one communicates because they're both dumbasses. Proving the other's point of futility.
Oh.
And I know you know who the first one's going to be. We're going to the West Coast. We are going to Los Angeles and Anaheim to discuss a couple players who play for the woe-begotten Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. And of course, we'll start off with Mr. Anthony Rendon, who has gotten paid millions and tens of millions and hundreds of millions of dollars
to sit on his ass.
Mr. Anthony Rendon comes out this week and says, quote, baseball has never been a top priority for me. He says this is a quote unquote job. Fine. Let's look back at his numbers. He has not played more than 58 games out of 162 in any of the 4 seasons he has been with the Angels since he signed a massive deal coming over from the Washington Nationals.
You know, if I was the owner of the Angels, I would be taking him to court for breach of contract for failing to live up to expectations.
And the sad thing is, this is what we're getting now from the NBA. We talked about the NBA earlier, and we talked about how they don't give a rat's ass. And we'll talk more about that in a minute.
Anthony Rendon is a piece of garbage.
And this is why Dave and I have been saying for years, no guaranteed contracts. None.
You can't have it.
The Angels should not have to pay this guy.
No. He hasn't even played half of a season since he's been there. Absolutely pathetic.
But in our Double Down Dumbass of the Week, it gets better because future Hall of Famer, his teammate, Mike Trout, who has not played more than 140 games in a season since 2016.
Another problem child who is overrated.
He says he wants to stay with the Angels, but he would like to see them try harder to bring in more free agents.
Yeah, how's that working out with the millions, hundreds of millions they're paying you and Rendon? They can't afford it, especially with you guys being part-time players.
And of course, let's not forget who was his teammate over the last handful of years.
Oh, I believe that would be the billion-dollar man, Shohei Ohtani.
So you had Shohei Ohtani, you had Anthony Rendon, you had Mike Trout.
And who played more games than the other two combined?
On both sides. Pitching and fielding and hitting.
Yeah, Ohtani.
So I do believe that Mr. Rendon and Mr. Trout qualify for the...
Oh, they are huge dumbasses.
Double dumbass of the week.
Double down dumbasses for sure.
All right, now let's get on to the NBA where we continue this trend. And I hate to say it, don't get mad at me, but it's going to be a Boston Celtic player.
If it's deserved, it's deserved.
Jaylen Brown, great player. Great player. But he's a hypocrite. And he's a dumbass. Because in the same interview, I'm going to give you 2 different points of view that he put forth in the same interview about the All-Star game and the All-Star weekend and how basketball players handle the season. First off, something you and I could get behind. This is a direct quote. A player, quote, should play a significant amount of the season, unquote, to win a postseason award. Because we've talked about the limits they put on, like Joel Embiid.
Right. So now that he's injured, out of any postseason award.
Right, because you have to play under the new guidelines 65 games minimum out of 82 to qualify for postseason awards. So Jaylen Brown initially says you need to play a significant amount of the season to win said awards. Then he comes back and he says, but 65 seems a little bit harsh. We should probably drop that to 58.
Dude, you're a fucking dumbass. How about you actually grow a pair of balls and learn how to play a full fucking season like everybody used to?
Can you believe that?
How stupid. How
Talking about
freaking
both sides of your
entitled.
Speaking out of both sides of your mouth.
What an entitled little
So
dumbass.
a significant amount of the season to him is 58 games out of 82.
No. A significant number of games is 70.
At least.
And that's taking injuries into account.
Right. The only time I might give a player a break is on a back-to-back.
Maybe.
But that should still get them at least, like you said, it's 70, if not more. But there's no excuse for this. The LeBron James rules where I don't play in Memphis.
Yeah, that's bullshit.
And of course, nobody, again, as I always fucking say to you people, nobody cares about us, the fans.
Which is why the fans don't care about the NBA.
Yeah. You mentioned this a couple weeks ago. Something I want to bring up. How all of a sudden, all these records all this year have been getting broken. All the viewership records. Everybody's setting records.
Yeah, how?
There's bullshit going on here because I'm also hearing the NBA is struggling badly.
Yeah. So you can't claim it both ways.
Now, you weren't here last week when I brought this up. You do realize I don't like to repeat what we talk about on the show, but Dave needs to get in on this. Because he does not follow the NBA, so he probably doesn't know this. But with our talk about Live Golf and the hypocrisy of Tiger Woods and Rory McIlroy, the NBA, after 1 year, now renaming that midseason tournament,
oh God,
the Emirates Cup. They sold the sponsorship rights.
Oh my God.
To the Dubai-based airline. And they had, at the All-Star game, that debacle, at the All-Star game, all the referees were required to wear
Emirate on their, my God. Oh.
What is it, United Emirates Airlines, whatever it is? Yeah. So now, from now on, it's the Emirates Cup.
So damn stupid.
On top of all the bullshit they pull with China. And nobody calls them out. And now Jaylen Brown says, well, maybe we should only have to play 58 games out of 82.
Dumbasses.
All right, let's stick with basketball because most of the dumbasses usually come from basketball. Now, last week, this is a follow-up dumbass. We had a double-down dumbass.
Can we rename the NBA to the NDAA? The National Dumbass Association?
They're obviously morons, so why not? Now, we had a double-down dumbass, so this will be a follow-up dumbass. FADA. This is a fada. Hello, fada. All right. So I mentioned earlier Caitlin Clark, and we talked about how she set the record for college women all-time scoring champ. Well, notable all-time great, again, appearing on the Racist podcast by Gilbert Arenas, Cheryl Swoops. I called her out last week because she was throwing all these numbers, these factually incorrect numbers about Caitlin Clark and how she didn't deserve to be the all-time lead. She said she was a fifth-year senior, which was bullshit, among other things.
So, of course, a nationally recognized broadcaster can't get their facts straight
And she goes on this podcast
because she's a dumbass.
because she's a bitter racist, just like Gilbert Arenas. Oh, guess what? She comes out, doesn't apologize, but says, I made a mistake on some of the things that I said.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but didn't apologize. Did not say,
Own
I'm
it.
sorry.
Own it, you twit!
So again, back-to-back weeks, I think Cheryl Swoops is a dumbass.
Absolutely.
And you guys, again, I said this last week, you do the research. You can go look at all the factual inaccuracies she put out there about Caitlin Clark. Heinous, terrible things she said. In terms of, again, she's not a fifth-year senior. She could come back next year if she wanted to, I believe. Then she'd be a fifth-year
Yeah.
senior. This guy is in the Dumbass Hall of Fame. I don't know if we've got him on the plane of doom. I don't know, because that plane is so crowded. He might not actually make it.
I think we need a jumbo max.
Yes. And we also have to consider
Or
cargo space, overhead bin space.
I think we need to convert a C-130.
You heard the story, by the way, last week about how there was a plane that somebody actually tried to bring fish on board and put it in the cargo bins, and maggots fell down because it was rotten fish.
Oh my God.
There was a woman that had to have a maggot removed from her breast.
Oh my God.
And I was like, is that the plane of doom? Who took the plane of doom? Seriously.
Oh my God.
Again, look it up,
Come
kids.
on, people.
Somebody tried to smuggle fish, not in a cooler, in regular luggage.
And a
it got
carry-on.
infested with maggots, and they fell from the overhead compartment onto people.
That's just, come on.
So again,
Where the hell is the screening? I thought everything had to go through a frickin' X-ray machine.
well, maggots aren't metal.
But still, you see what's in there. Come on.
So anyway, debating whether or not this guy would be on the plane of doom. Close. He is right there. Rick Pitino.
Oh, we've had him on the plane of doom for years.
Okay, don't have the manifest in front of me, Dave. I don't have the passenger list.
Yes. He is on the plane of doom.
Well, he hasn't bent a waitress over a table and impregnated her recently, as far as we know, so I don't know. But now, of course, he gets another chance. Again, so forgiving our country is for the douchebags and the assholes of the world, that we give yet another chance to Rick Pitino. So he gets a very prestigious job, I would say.
St. John's is a respectable program.
For Lou Carnesecca, one of the all-time legends, brought that program up to be a power. And now Rick Pitino comes in. Of course, they're barely above 500. Maybe we'll make the NIT. And of course, I can't say anything because that's where my Hurricanes are right now. But after their recent loss, Rick Pitino goes on a tirade after the game in his press conference and says, this team is quote unquote unathletic, and even considering when he was in the pros and he was the head coach of the Celtics and their struggles, this is the quote most unenjoyable experience of my lifetime, unquote.
I don't quite know that I can fully call him a dumbass on this. The team blew a 19-point lead.
I think the thing,
and for like their sixth straight loss.
I think the thing that makes him a dumbass, though, is that he didn't take any accountability for himself.
And he should have had some accountability.
Even though we talked earlier about how much I don't like UConn's head coach, Hurley, he at least, when they got shellacked by Creighton, as you pointed out. First thing he said, we didn't coach well enough. Last thing he said, we didn't coach well enough. He did not throw his players and the facilities and the program under the bus without taking responsibility, saying, maybe I didn't coach well enough. So I think that's where people are a little bit rubbed the wrong way with this.
Pitino.
Yes.
He should
He
have
never,
he should have
ever,
fallen
ever.
on the sword. If they're not listening during practice and during the game, maybe he felt that was the only way to motivate him.
Okay, I never thought this would be one where you would go against me, but okay. So Dave says
I'm on the border with this.
Dave says potentially not a dumbass.
It depends on the dynamics of that team. If they're not responding, maybe publicly calling them out is what's needed.
But again, when does he take responsibility at all for the fact that maybe he's not coaching them up either?
There could be that one too. So that's where I'm on the fence with.
All right. Well, we can't always agree.
That's
what makes it fun. We can't always agree.
But he's still on the plane of doom.
Well, that's the thing. When he said, the first thing I thought when he said this is the most unenjoyable experience of my life is that, well, he can't find a restaurant where he can bang a waitress over a table and impregnate her. So that's why it's just unenjoyable for him. Finally, we go back to the world of golf. And no, it's not Tiger Woods. It's actually somebody I like. But in this case, a dumbass. And that would be one Jordan Spieth.
Say it ain't so.
Jordan Spieth, we talked about the Genesis Invitational. Jordan Spieth was disqualified from the Genesis Invitational because
he didn't set his alarm.
He signed an incorrect card.
This is okay. Somebody else was disqualified for missing their tee time because they didn't set their alarm.
I did not hear that. That's interesting.
Yeah, somebody else got disqualified for missing their tee time.
No, this was Jordan Spieth was DQ'd because he signed his card where he actually on the course got a bogey. He signed that he got a par.
Oh, no. Major no.
Yeah. And then, of course, what does he do? He pulls a Tiger Woods and says, well, I wasn't feeling well.
Yeah. Dumbass.
All right, kids. Good to have Dave back, as always. Good to have you with us.
Good to be back.
Good to have you with us as always, but we're not done yet. We're done here for Thursday morning, but a couple mornings from now.
Your Saturday morning hangover cure, the weekend edition.
And I promise you, I was just getting warmed up here with the sports stuff. I have got so much to go off on this weekend when it comes to pop culture and entertainment.
So you might want to not have as many beers Friday night. Drink a little more water, take the aspirin early, because it's going to get loud quick, kids.
Yes, Dave and I got to talk about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Of course, I went off on it last week. I will let Dave do it this week. And then we will talk about Oppenheimer. And
we've got our issues.
I know I do. I don't know. Dave and I do not consult. We like to do this spontaneously.
I've got issues.
That being said, you might be talking to two people out of the hundreds of millions in the world who did not like Oppenheimer. But we'll see. You need to wait till Saturday morning to find out.
And I have a triple feature for story time.
And you got a book review.
And a book review, kids. So don't want to miss this.
All right. Hope you enjoyed Sports Edition. We'll be back with you in 7 days for more, including our recap of the Atlanta race in NASCAR. Hopefully we'll get some baseball free agent signings if Scott Boras would actually stop being the fucking Antichrist. And hopefully Cody Bellinger will end up with the Cubs. We'll see.
All right.
But until then, he's your Uncle Dave.
He's your Uncle Kev.
You take care. We will see you Saturday morning, kids.
Bye-bye.